Welcome to another episode of Well-Adjusted Mama. This is a podcast dedicated to educating and empowering women from preconception, pregnancy, birth, and through early motherhood on wellness lifestyle. I'm your host, Dr. Laura Brayton. I'm a maternity pediatric chiropractor, functional medicine practitioner, and mother who has hand-selected experts in natural holistic healthcare specialties to shine light on options and choices during this exciting phase of a woman's life. Today, I had the honor and privilege to interview Nicole Danielle. We spoke about her book, Diamonds Beneath the Darkness, and it's really an amazing interview. I'm definitely excited for you to check it out. Nicole Danielle is a seasoned TV film producer with credits on networks such as Discovery, A&E, and the Food Network, and is the visionary and co-founder of Amazing Crazy Productions. She's a passionate storyteller, focusing on creating inspiring content in hopes to make a positive impact on the lives of others. Her self-discovery memoir, Diamonds Beneath the Darkness, is the first book in the Life Through Lyrics series, which chronicles Nicole's personal journey to become. As a self-published author, Nicole's debut memoir has become a #1 bestseller and an internationally recognized award-winning book. As a co-host of the Somewhere Road podcast, you can find Nicole every Wednesday using her voice to help others take their own healing journey. As a mom of 2 young children with autism, Nicole is not only an advocate, but a champion for authentic voices. And you can find out more about her at her website, amazingcrazytv.com. Hi, Nicole. Welcome to the show. I'm very excited to have you on today.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
So I'm thrilled for you to talk a little bit about your story, starting with your Diamonds Beneath the Darkness book, part 1, that's been out for about a year, and part 2 that's coming out in the near future, and essentially kind of like your passion for storytelling and how you got here.
Yeah, I mean, again, thank you for having me. I'm truly honored to be here and to share this part of my story with everybody. Yeah, I think the storyteller in me is definitely woven in my soul. Like, I'm one of those people that I don't know what I'm doing in life if I'm not creating in some way. My mind sees in pictures. And so for me, it's just the core of who I am as a storyteller. I mean, from childhood, really, and discovering my love of theater. And I got my degree in theater. I was an actress in Hollywood for a while. And then I kind of, as a lot of people do, come to a crossroads. And I was like, I want this feeling of this every day, but this isn't working for me. So I just transitioned into producing television and films at that point, because I realized what storytelling and creating gave me, which is really that feeling of making other people laugh and smile and feel something real and provide an escape to life, is what I loved about being an actress in the theater. And I could do that as from a producing standpoint and still be able to give that escape for people, just from a different medium. And then, I've always been a writer. I've always written poetry. I've always loved, being more up in the clouds, because life always felt more beautiful up there. And you can create, these images and these scenes and these words and, express them in a way verbal words always can't. And so, that's kind of like where the storyteller in me comes from. And the reason it inspired me to write my debut memoir, Diamonds Beneath the Darkness, which is part 1 of the Life Through Lyrics series, which is my personal journey to become, was really a combination of many things. I think the moment in life I knew that I, spent my entire career telling other people's stories, but perhaps the most important work I could do right now was to share my own, to help other people. And it really kind of hit me in a very overwhelming way during the pandemic. I do think the pandemic did a number on a lot of people. People were constantly messaging me, with things they were struggling with. And I would just be like, mama, girl, you're not alone in this. Like, we've all gone through things. The problem is people just don't talk about it. And so there was a moment I'll never forget. I do this thing where I talk in my own mind. I talk it out as I'm processing it. So that's kind of what's happening. But both of my young children have autism. And so there was a moment during the pandemic, we were in our tiny little 1,200 square foot apartment in Burbank, California. And I just remember something happened. And it was like the news on the TV, right? Because everyone just had news pumped into their house. And then it was my nonverbal son struggling to get words out of his mouth. And then it was my youngest son reacting to my nonverbal son trying to do that. And it was like, suddenly I felt like life just started swirling around me. And I was like inside of this storm, and I just crashed down with like a massive panic attack. And the best way I can describe it is decades worth of experiences in life that I never talked about because I was told I didn't have a voice or my voice didn't matter. So suffer silently, and all of it kind of came to the surface and crashed down on me in one instant. I think in my book, I said something along the lines of like, I'm not Nicole falling down the rabbit hole going to Wonderland. Or I'm not Alice falling down the rabbit hole going to Wonderland. I'm Nicole climbing out of the rabbit hole and waking up to the reality of my life. And so it was in that moment of that massive panic attack that I was just like, I can't carry this anymore. And so many people are carrying things that they don't talk about, and I have to find a way to speak. And especially having a child who's nonverbal, especially since, you know, the day I was born, I had this generational backpack put on me of you come from a long line of strong, independent women. So carry it for everybody, but, you know, sit there and look pretty and don't talk about it because your voice doesn't matter. You don't have anything someone wants to say. And so, you know, that moment of that panic attack happening, and then the wave of something came over me that was like, Nicole, like, you know, this is the narrative people wanted you to, believe your whole life about yourself, but life gave you a nonverbal child. That's not for no reason. And it really felt like in that moment, life broke me. Call it life, call it universe, call it God, call it source, call it self, whatever it is that you believe in, wrote me a permission slip and was like, here, mama, it's your turn to speak. And since that moment, I just decided to run with it. I run with it. I just, every night, like, I can't tell you how many nights after they're like, my baby would be asleep. Like Wilder was so little then, I think he was only a year old, in my chest, and I would be up typing with 2 fingers because I just knew I needed to get the stories out. I had to write. There were so many there was so much I struggled with, not even from, bullying and abuse and abandonment and betrayal and miscarriages I openly talk about, but like, there was just so much cutting my mother out of my life, my father, like there's just so much. And it actually hasn't been until recently, this part 2 of my journey, I realized that everything that I was suffering silently about was associated with trauma. I just never thought my story was deserving of that word next to it, if that makes sense, because that's a big word.
It wasn't bad enough.
It wasn't bad enough, but it was a lot, and it was heavy.
Yeah,
it was trauma. I mean, down to, especially with the miscarriages, but then after my oldest son, Crosby, was born, everyone is sitting there looking at the baby, and I was suffering bad. Postpartum depression is a thing, and people go through it and they don't talk about it. And so it was just a lot of heaviness, and everything in that moment, started flooding out, and I just kept writing and writing and writing and writing and writing and rewriting and writing. And then
so cathartic. I mean, this was your therapy.
It was. And, I talk about it in the book, I don't talk about it in the book, but it happened. It's going to be in book 2. One of my editors, because I did self-publish the book. So this entire book was me. It was in my mind. It was my everything. But I did have, as a TV producer, I know how important editors are. So I did have an editor, and I don't think she was experienced in life. And at, one point she really challenged me with some stuff with the book. And, she's like, well, Nicole, like, this is really dark. You need to give people some hope. And I was just like, life gets dark, and sometimes people don't always feel the hope, and they know it's there, right? But like, we have to be able to talk about these emotions and these true feelings when we sit with ourselves, beyond the self-medicating people do, beyond the emotional band-aids, beyond the ways that they escape the truth. And you sit with yourself and you allow yourself to feel these things you go through. Even in the darkest of the darkness, there is beauty in that. And you know that you can rise out of it and get back to yourself,
You really hit a good point there. Like, it's okay to feel that pain and to sit in that darkness, even though it's super uncomfortable. And even it was uncomfortable at times to read the book, right? But and there were a few tears shed. But the whole point is like that is healing, right? And if we just try to avoid it, pretend it's not there, that's just that, a masking, that emotional bandage that is not going to allow us to clean out the garbage in our basement.
Well, and it does so much damage to you. And unfortunately, I don't think we explained, but like, I think I'm crazy for writing his book and honest and intimate and raw and unfiltered as I did, but I know that's why it's connecting with hearts. I'm probably crazier for making it a self-discovery memoir series. I don't know if any memoir series exist, but for me, in making the choice to publish this book, which I almost didn't do because I almost let fear stop me. I was literally physically sick before I pressed publish because I was so terrified to be so real with the world. But then I had to sit with myself and be like, Nicole, that's your ego talking. Check it at the door, because now at this point, it's not about you. It's about who needs this book to cross their path when they need it the most. And if you don't get out of your own head and your way, someone that's going to need to read this book is going to miss that opportunity to, for it to help them.
Right.
But yeah, I was so sick. So I finally just, pushed. I found the courage to push publish, but I'm thankful I did, because to do away with that fear, and that's really what book 2 is going to be about, is to take a healing journey is hard. It's hard. It's why most people in life probably will never do it, because it really makes you face so much of the past when it's really easier just to turn a blind eye.
It is much easier.
It is, but it's so much beautiful to go through that journey. But what I've really just kind of realized is the people who also never will take that journey are the ones kind of doing the most damage to the people who are. And that's really hard. That becomes those ebbs and flows and those roadblocks. Is like, I kind of said, in finding the courage to write this book, I said to myself one day, I was like, I'm tired of staying small just so other people can stay comfortable. Because it was very damaging. It was very damaging. I think we all are these beautiful, bright little lights and souls, when we're younger, and then slowly the world just starts to chip away at you because they don't want you to shine so bright, or they want to steal some of that for themselves, or they want you to stay small. Why would you want someone to like shine bright and be bigger than you? Because then you have to look at yourself in your own life and the hard truths that you don't want to look at. And so really, it's just been this whole evolution of sitting with these pieces of my stories and acknowledging, like, this isn't a tell-all. So many people are like, I can't believe you didn't talk about that. It's like, well, it's not a tell-all. It's pieces of my life that got me to the darkest point of my life. But in seeing that, I'm not even kidding you. So
there were other moments that didn't even make the cut, huh?
No. This book was literally 190,000 words. I cut half the book out. There's a whole 1.5. Like, yeah, there was a lot, but it's just, you just start to realize that it's like the damage other people can do to you. Like, you read my book, I talked very openly about an abusive relationship. And the one thing about my book is I've never played the victim in any of those stories. At least I tried my hardest not to. I owned up to my responsibility in anything that I faced in life. And in that, relationship, that was like really hard because I had to learn how to verbally fight back. But I'm telling you, it's not up until book 2 that will be coming out next year, and the journey I've taken on the healing piece of it all, that I've really had a breakthrough in realizing that for 13 years, I let the voice and the narrative of what someone wanted me to believe damage myself so much that I limited myself in this lifetime. You don't realize the damage that the words, and yeah, words are words and people give a meaning and all that stuff, but like, it's very damaging what people can do to you. And you can like spend your whole life never living in the truth of yourself or the person that you are and who you are. And it gets back to like the younger versions of ourselves. That is our authentic and true self. And so what's crazy to me is on this journey, especially the healing piece, which I'm really super, super excited about book 2. It's been relearning how to rewrite that narrative. And even though the book says Life Through Lyrics, which is the series title, The Journey to Become, the biggest thing I've realized is it's not about becoming the next best version of myself, which is what I thought that was going to be when I named it that, the subtitle. It's really been the unbecoming. And so it's really been working through these layers of these things that got me to that point and working through to finally heal and let that go so I can get back to that truest part of myself that's always been in me all along. I just lost touch with myself because of the noise and the heaviness of what was surrounding me and what people put on me.
Right. And I think what you're speaking to, like a lot of this is forming our subconscious mind, right? It happens the first 7 years of our life. So as moms and parents, it's like, oh my God, what we say to our children really matters. Because it creates their belief system about themselves and about the world, how they respond even as adults, right? We're just subconsciously going through the motions and living off that 2, 3, 4-year-old brain that has fear and low self-esteem and all these other beliefs about themselves that are not true.
Well, and it's so sad. It's so sad. I mean, one of the chapters that gets me the most, and it's the least unexpected one, is the one I wrote called The Dreamer. And I talk about how I used to be the biggest dreamer in the world, like literally dreamed bigger than the stars in the sky. Like, it's crazy for me to be a published author now, because I always put authors up there with like astronauts and scientists, like you did this thing that no one can do. And now I did that thing, right? But
you're dreaming.
But I did. Like, I used to make dream boxes for people because I knew how important dreams are. And I would hand paint these gifts for people and gift them to them because I just wanted them to know that someone out there believed in them. Because knowing someone believes in you is, like, I think personally the best gift you could ever give anybody in the world. It's just so powerful to know people believe in you. But it's like, yeah, so when we're kids, it's like, cool, you have the freedom to dream and wander and live in your imagination and create these magnificent ideas of a life and, that isn't reality. And then somewhere along the line, life flips. Right. And then the voices start saying, oh no, it's time to grow up. Don't dream so big,
Right.
Get your head out of the clouds, get back down to reality. And it's just so damaging and it's so sad. And I guess that is reality, but it's like, but man, how much more beautiful life is when you do allow yourself to have that playground, to just still believe that you can do and accomplish anything you want in life. You just have to remember that part of yourself that's in there that says, yes, I can, and take the chance to do it.
We're all born with that, right? We're all born with that. Anything is possible.
Yeah.
Anything is possible. Like that is the truth. And when we forget that, right? As we get older,
we do.
It gets squashed out of us sometimes. Yeah.
Well, and I think too, it's because you start to believe, again, the noise. I call it the noise, right? We all have the noise. We have the people, we have the narratives, we have the stuck in your way, like the damaging parts beyond ourselves that exist in our world that we may or may not have chosen to bring into our lives. But yeah, that does a lot of damage. And when you can work through it, I think you can start to see that you can get back to those versions of self. It's just, again, it takes a lot of work to get there. But I think that's what I've also come to realize, especially working in TV and film and my experience producing reality TV, is that, man, no matter what stage in life, you really can create the life that you want. It's so much of it is perception. I mean, I can't tell you how many scenes I've created that didn't exist in reality. I've stolen audio from this scene that people didn't know was being recorded and laid it over this visual and cheated in shots of these people at something that weren't there. And it's like, but that's what the world sees it, right? I created what I want you to believe, and that's not reality, but people think it's real. And so it's kind of
reality TV.
It is, but and then there's these people that are sitting there comparing their actual real life to that. And I just want to be like, guys, let me shake you. That's not real.
Yeah.
There's parts of it that are real, but it's not real. But it's also like, that's a totally different book I'm writing beyond this series, though, is like using my skills in that way to help people realize that you can also take that ability to create the life of your dreams. Just like you create your own reality, right? Beyond what you think is real sometimes isn't necessarily what's real. It's the projection of other people, what they want for your life onto your own life. And that's heavy and that's damaging, but it's the truth. A lot of people don't want you to live your story. They want you to live the story they want you to live for your life, because selfishly it feeds their ego even more.
Right. So you talked a lot about some relationships in your life that you had to cut some toxic people out of your life. How's that? How are you sitting with that now? It's been a few years. That was part of your healing journey, obviously.
Yeah, it's been hard. It's been really hard. I mean, my oldest son, Crosby, just turned 8 and he's never met my mother. That was been part on the healing journey, has been to man, I guess you get to a point in life where you question the sadness of someone physically being on this earth and breathing, or someone having passed from this earth entirely, which is the
Right.
worst. You can't change people. You can't, but I also know that my kids having autism are two of the most purest, authentic, beautiful souls I've ever met in my life. And I won't let that kind of toxicity come near them. I just can't do it. So it's been hard. It's been hard making decisions, and everyone of course has opinions about it. But again, you have to remember that it's your life and you have to make hard decisions for a reason. And for me, I had a huge breakthrough with my father's story. So for any of your listeners listening to this, since I was a child, around the age of 12 years old, my last name changed for my protection. I was told to lose my Italian last name and remove myself completely from that identity of myself. And so I haven't realized until this healing part of the journey that that's why I never understood self-love. That's why I always grew up hating my dark brown eyes, because they reminded me of my Italian roots. And so.
And was this actually a real protection thing, or this was coming from him?
Well, I mean, you're talking about a prominent Italian family in the outskirts of Chicago. So whatever story people, I mean, there was rumors around going to school that I was in the witness protection program, and I wasn't. So it was more, I think it was more the wants of my mother and how she wanted it to be versus the reality of what the actual situation was. Because I found out a lot more about my life since my father passed. But that was a big piece of it. So for 27 years, I secretly held on to this hope that, I would have been able to have just one conversation with him in one day. And then during the pandemic, I got the call that he was found dead. So that was a lot to process. That was a lot of heaviness. That was a lot of removal of relationships in life that I didn't choose. And so, on this healing journey, there was a huge breakthrough day that writing it is like, it was the moment in life I truly understood what it felt like to let go and forgive, the decisions and choices of the past that I never chose, that other people chose for my life, for how my life should be. And I tell you, ever since that day, I have felt closer to that side of my roots than I've ever felt. Like, I literally feel a presence around me daily watching out for me, which is crazy. But that same day, I also had to release the connection to my mother officially, because I was just like, I just have to, I can't, like, I just sent a flower off into the ocean. I was like, I'm done carrying this backpack. I'm done carrying this. You come from a long line of strong, independent women stuff. I'm done. People not having a voice telling me I don't have a voice, to my son not having a voice. Like, there was such a big wave of connection for me. And I had to sit there, and I sat there at the river here in Colorado, the Poudre River, and I felt the warmth of the sun and the wind break through the trees and the rapids of the river. And I just had a moment. I was like, Nicole, you come from a long line of strong, independent women, but you have two boys, so it has to end with you. And it was that day where I was just kind of like, it has to be broken. Like, I have to do the work, whatever it's going to take to heal all of this trauma and all of this stuff for everybody that probably doesn't even deserve me to do that work. But I have two beautiful sons who need me to do it because they deserve to live a more beautiful life. And the craziest thing is that day, that night when I got home after this like huge healing moment in my life and on this next part of the journey, I got a random phone call from my maternal grandmother, who I haven't heard from in years, my mom's mom. And I've gotten a lot of backlash and a lot of rumors for being so honest about my book and the stories I share. But she called me up that day just to say, I'm so proud of you for speaking the truth. And I felt like I saw myself in your stories. And that was like a huge healing moment in itself. Like,
she read your book.
Yep. My grandmother did. She was gifted it for Christmas. I know other family members didn't. They're just going off of leaked chapter summaries that were sent and whatever, but my mother being one of them. But, you also get to a point where it's like, when you make the choice and find the strength within yourself to say, I'm taking back my voice, I'm taking back my life, I'm taking back my power, you really begin to understand your values and how to put up boundaries and you become mentally stronger. For me, so much of this journey has been mind, body, heart, soul, spirit connection in a way that people don't always understand. Like a lot of people think so many of these things is linearly, but the truth is it's all connected. And so for me, finding that inner strength to do that has really helped me on the outside, not allow the toxicity and those people that fall into that in my life affect me anymore the way they would have before I found the strength to put this book out into the world.
How did you find that strength?
Oof.
Because this is not easy work. I mean, I'm saying it over and over again.
No, it's not. It's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Like, and I mean, my journey to motherhood was extremely hard, and this was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. But I'm also so proud of it. And for me, it really comes down to my kids. Having two kids who have autism, one who is nonverbal, knowing that they exist in a world that's not always kind, that might not create opportunities for them in the future, that, you know, trying to change the narrative of the past for them. So, like I said, they live a more beautiful life. I just, you know, there was that one night I just looked in their eyes and I was like, you have to do this. It's for other people, but it's also for my kids. It's what sort of legacy I want to build and what I want to show them. You know, you're telling me that my kid can or can't do something based on the fact that he doesn't have verbal words that you understand. I got to a point where I was just tired of seeing my kids limited in this lifetime. And I had to have a moment where I was like, Nicole, if you're never going to allow the world to limit your children, why are you limiting yourself? And so in them, in their eyes, I saw the reflection of young me. And they have my eyes 100%. They have their dark brown eyes and my Italian roots. I mean, I married a blue-eyed boy thinking I was going to have beautiful blue-eyed babies. But, you know, so in them, I was reminded of that young dreamer in me, that girl who felt unstoppable, could do anything. The sky was the limit and nobody could touch her until she allowed them to and break her. And so really it's just my deep connection with them and the way I fight for them every single day. And I had to remind myself that I also had value and I was worthy of fighting for too.
Right.
And that's how I did it.
You're modeling that for them. So it almost sounds like if you had chosen to never have kids, perhaps there would really no be reason to write this book.
No.
Okay.
I think
you still are putting yourself first is what you're saying.
No, because the greatest purpose was after the pandemic, seeing other people suffer and realizing that people were not alone. Like I even wrote that in my intro, like my biggest thing is like wanting people to realize that our stories will never, ever be the same, but we are so much more connected than we know. But you don't know that because people don't always talk about openly about the things that they go through in life. Like, you know, like I said, like I wished in all of these moments in life when I felt so alone and so lost and in so much pain that someone had shared something with me that would have made me feel like I wasn't alone. I don't know if this book would have ended up what it was if I didn't have children. But I think, 80% of the book, 70% of the book is before I had kids. So however else in my life would have taken a journey had I not, I still think the book would have written itself in some way. But you know, the one thing I didn't explain is this is the reason it really is because of my kids. And especially there's one dedication in it and it says, "For Crosby, thank you for helping me find my voice." And I labeled the entire series is titled Life Through Lyrics. Having a child who is nonverbal, but he can say, "Hi, Mama." So it's in there. And I know there's something blocking him. And that's why I'm doing the work I'm doing, because I know it's in there. And it's just a matter of figuring out the pieces that are, you know, making sense as far as not the puzzle pieces, but like there's some sort of connection and lineage I can see. But, you know, beyond, I'm deeply, deeply, deeply connected with my son, even though I've never heard him verbally say, "I love you, Mom." I don't want to get emotional about it, but, you know, most parents are having full conversations with their 8-year-olds. But he has taught me how to communicate at a level that exists beyond words. He has taught me to literally see through people's eyes and into their souls, and you can know more about a person and touch their lives deeper than you ever could with words. But one way we are actually thankfully able to communicate is through the power of music. I can't tell you how many times that kid will find a song or a video. And we don't notice it right away, but I'll notice the repetition of a few times he's playing something. And then I'm like, I take note of it. And I realize he's telling us how he's feeling through music. And so the storyteller in me couldn't have done this book just by writing the narrative the way I did alone. I had a completely extra layer to it. And so it's called Life Through Lyrics because every single subchapter in the book, which there's 122 of them, is titled after a song that resonates with those pieces of the stories I shared. And the big twist I did is then I give readers access to my personal playlist because you never know what version of a song is playing in someone's mind. And so me seeing in pictures, working in TV and film, being this creative storyteller, like I can't do anything without music or connect with my son. So for me, it was like, if readers want to take a more immersive storytelling journey, they can play the playlist in the background as they read through the book. And the entire series will carry that on. That's why it's Life Through Lyrics.
Wow. I mean, that is a lot of work to put that all together.
Yeah. That's why it took me a lot longer than it did. I literally sat in my office so many nights. I had candles going. And I'm like, it was so much of it was actually the scoring and finding the right feel of what song and what actually flowed. Because again, I didn't want to just write my story. I didn't want, this isn't a tell-all. I didn't want to be like, here's me, I did this. That's why I say it's beyond me. It might be my stories, but this is for other people. I wanted people to feel what it was like to take the journey and to take that with me, And I think, again, that's why it connects so deeply with others, is because of those pieces and the attention to it I put in that way.
Have you heard from women who've read the book and have shared how much it's shifted their life? And
yeah,
because I mean, and I would say especially women, right? Like we just need to communicate and connect at a level that's different than men, right?
I had a coach I was working with on the beginning of the book journey said to me one day, Nicole, you're a nobody, so you need to make your book smaller. And I was kind of like,
what?
Okay. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I literally had, not to be like male or female or whatever, but to have a man say that to me when he never even read a single sentence of what I'd written was very disheartening and challenging to me as I was approaching the published line. I call it the published line, not the finish line. But so I almost, like I said, I ripped out 90,000 words. The last minute, I almost took out the entire chapter that talked about Crosby being born, about postpartum depression, about giving up the biggest part of myself for the best part of myself, which was deciding to put a pin in my producing career, which at the time I was making more than any man I was working with, to be home for Crosby because something inside of me said, he needs you here. And slowly losing my identity and struggling with that and life changing, and then having a child who ends up getting an early diagnosis of autism and loses his voice. He had a voice and everything. And I just like having a man tell me I was a nobody. So to make my story smaller started to make me think that those stories weren't valuable, or they weren't like, who wants to hear about that? Who wants to hear about motherhood? Who wants to hear about being a woman, temporarily giving up your career for a child, and you have no village and no support and no one sees you anymore. You start to become invisible because everything is about the baby then. And so I almost ripped that story out last minute just because I was told to make this book smaller.
No,
and then something was like,
story.
But something was like, Nicole, don't do it, keep it in. And I can't tell you how many women have written me, women I know, that never talked about anything. I've had so many parents who have children with autism reach out to me that don't talk about their child's diagnosis because their family doesn't understand, or they're embarrassed about it, or they hide, videos with music over it so people don't know that their child's nonverbal too. But I've had so many people thank me for finding the courage to share that chapter and how it made them finally feel seen and not alone. And I mean, I can't even tell you, like, for a self-published author, I've had 7 or 8 in-person Barnes and Noble and bookstore events. People, when you put your heart out there and you just ask people rally around you. I mean, I talk about the red key in the book, my brief key, and there was a woman that came up to me at Barnes and Noble in Loveland, Colorado. And she just opened up about her story, and she broke down crying to the point that she was trying to process the fact that someone could be real and talk about it. And it was giving her the space to talk about her journey with me and her life. And I reached into my wallet, and I wasn't prepared to do that, but I passed on my red breathe key to her because I was like, this is your reminder to breathe, and you're stronger than you know. I mean, I had an event at a Barnes and Noble in Colorado Springs, and they were like, don't expect much from us, memoir, your genre isn't really for our readers. I sold out of every single book we brought there. And on top of it, I had 3 men come up to me who were going through depression and anxiety and their own, PTSD stuff. And they didn't know how to get through it. And they overheard me talking about this book to women. And each of those men bought the book. And they were just like, thank you so much for this. So I knew self-publishing, it was going to be the long game and it was going to be hard. But for me, it's never been about the surface level stuff. I knew that to put this out there, it would find its way into the hands of the people who needed it most, and one person, one story at a time. If it impacts their life, then it was worth everything I had to go through in life to get to this point. But I am really proud of it. As a self-published book, it did release at #1, which was unbelievable when you're a team of one doing it yourself. And you're going up against giants and celebrities and publishing houses. And then I just found out this week it got an international award. It won the silver medal in nonfiction women's category for the Reader's Favorite International Contest. And so,
congratulations!
It's great. Thank you. It's overwhelming. I mean, you would think I won an Oscar the way I've been like dancing, and then I've been like, there's the people that hurt me and did this. But I'm proved to you I did, and it means something. And my voice matters. My story is worthy of being. It's been a week, but I'm just really proud. I'm so proud of myself for finding the courage, the strength. I'm proud of myself for finding the strength to write it. And I'm really proud of myself for finding the courage to put it out into the world. And, I think like anybody that's listening to this, that maybe it's not a book, or maybe it's anything that you want to do that inside, like you are bursting to do, or you have passion about it. It's like, I got to a point where I was like, I don't want to look back in life and regret. I never did. And then also, like, I remember hearing last summer when I was still kind of in the iffiness of if I was going to do this, I was just really deep in the editing and writing of it. And I heard something, and I'm not going to quote it right, I know, but it was something along the lines of like, you don't want the graveyard to be the most valuable real estate. So it's like, don't let the stories die with you. Don't let whatever you want to do not see the light of day, no matter how terrified you are, no matter how hard it is. This was so hard. That's not to discredit anybody, but when you are just your team of yourself doing everything, it was hard. But you also have to get to a point when you are getting back to self and you are sitting with it, that you trust whatever form of anything you believe in, that if this is what you're meant to do, it will find its way somehow. You don't have to have all the answers right away looking into it. You just have to take that first step to do it.
Yeah. I mean, you're obviously living your purpose. You're really just, lifting yourself up and lifting up everyone around you. So I really applaud that. How has it been for your marriage? I mean, you obviously have a man who's been really supportive of everything you're doing. Or not? Okay.
No, I mean, it's hard, but I'm doing it anyways. So, the purpose is bigger, and,
the purpose is bigger. I would agree with that.
So it's, it's in the times where I'm challenged, if I'm supposed to be doing this or if it's right, I'll get some sort of sign and nudge that's like, no, keep going and just trust, Again, book 2 is going to be something as part of the journey.
I can't wait to read it. Do you have a meditation practice that really helps you, like, really have this trust? Like, where's that coming from?
Crazy, but it's crazy. I've struggled with that. I've so struggled with that since I put the book out. Like, I swear, Dr. Lois, sometimes I reread parts of this book and I'm like, wait, did I write that? It's almost like, and the moments I was most connected to my purpose, like something took over and wrote through me.
You were channeling.
And so, yes. But what's crazy is since we've been here, I've written all my notes for what's coming in book 2, but I have not found the flow to write like I did before. But recently on my own podcast, I just talked to my co-host about this. I was like, do you think there's a connection between faith and creativity? And she was like, absolutely. Because I've realized like the boys have gone through a hard season. They've been waking up early. I was going to 5 a.m. boxing classes, and then I was coming home and I was meditating after before they woke up. And now the season's been so wonky because they're growing, they're going through changes, and I haven't been meditating as much. And I was like, wow, I haven't been able to quiet my mind to write book 2 the way I know it needs to be written, because I haven't had that time to disconnect from the noise.
Right.
And when I do have that time, it's unbelievable how it flows. Like I would be sitting there. I even think I wrote that story in the book. I got my tattoo because I had written, one of my lines was, I am the ocean and I do not fear the waves. And that line came to me during meditation. And that day when that happened, I didn't break the moment. I just started writing. Something came over me and I hand wrote so much of the stories and so much of everything. And then I just transfer it to the document with the books. But no, I think it's super important. And even if you don't have the ability to get up early in the morning for whatever your life is, if you find that time before you go to bed and you cleanse your mind, because I think so many people sometimes think like journaling or writing is like woo-woo or whatever, but really like in any form that you do it, I mean, writing a book is journaling in a sense. It's what it is it's just releasing what's been trapped in your mind, and those thoughts are energy, and it's just releasing it, and it's an escape, whatever form of way you can do it in. I mean, I literally have a text message chain with myself, and all day long, if I can't find the proper time, I'm just texting myself the stuff that's in my mind just to release it, and to make note of it if I can't actually get to my notebook and pen and write it down. So it's not like a set. I was trying to do, have you ever heard of the Miracle Morning?
No.
With Hal Arad's Miracle Morning. He's amazing. But his whole thing has been based on, he's had so much wild success with it. It's like getting up early and taking an hour in your day. And his whole thing is based on like the savor. So it's silence, affirmations, visualizations, exercise, reading, and scribing. So if you take 10 minutes, even move your body, cleanse your mind, write it out, visualize what you want in your life. If you take 10 minutes in the morning to hit each of those things in 1 hour, it's proven that you will accomplish more in your day than most people ever will. And so I had for a long time, like that was my like morning routine. That was what I did. And that's how so much of this book flowed out of me. But I realized what a difference it has been in my life when I don't give myself that time a day. So part of this journey right now is working back towards finding that piece for myself.
And that's a common hard thread for moms. I have a almost 7-year-old son, and the same thing, like when you get all this fit in, right? And so for me, it was getting up earlier when he's still sleeping, getting on my Peloton. I like the idea of writing after that too, sweating it all out.
Yeah.
It's that mama self-care.
Well, and you have, your career too. And it's like, you start to do the math and you're like, there's 24 hours in a day. Wait, people say I'm supposed to sleep 8 hours. Wait, but I need this time for me and I have this time for my life, but I need to be a mom and I need to schedule that time and I need to be present for, like you start deducting this time and it becomes overwhelming when you look at it like that. And often, us as moms do fall short and we sacrifice that time for ourselves first, because our kids need it, our careers need it, our partners, if you have them, need it. There's so many other people that also beyond your walls are pulling at you, needing you too. And it's really damaging. It's really, really damaging. And, it is a beautiful thing when you find the time in any way to take care of self. It's super empowering. And it's super important for your life. Because everything else is affected when you're not taking care of you, even though you don't, but when you do, you end up having so much more to give to others.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's, every episode I talk about mama self-care. It's just like ongoing, because I think as women, we're such amazing caretakers and everyone else comes first. And then, we get neglected, and it keeps us off our purpose, right? Because we don't have the energy and vibrancy.
Well, and it does. And like I remember sharing, a piece. My husband always hates when I talk about this. You probably hear me through vlogs. But I share the story that during the pandemic, like I went to him one day. I was struggling bad. It was after that huge panic attack happened. And everyone experienced the pandemic differently. For our family, we were safer at home because we couldn't afford to lose Crosby's therapies. He would have regressed tremendously if we didn't. So we really had to buckle down. We had to do what we needed to do so that his therapies could come in home and he didn't lose those services. But one day I was after that, panic attack, I was struggling and I went to my husband and I was like, I need something for me. Like, I need you to give me time for myself. Like, I was so invisible at that point in time. Like, nobody was looking at what I needed. Like, my mental health was starting to really unravel because it was so much. And he looked at me straight in the eyes and he was like, I love you, but I'm never going to think to give you time for yourself. And that was like a hard pill to swallow. And at first I was pissed. Like, I was mad. I was like, hello, I'm wife, I'm mama. No one, and even you are not looking to say, oh, look at her, look at the state she's in. She needs something. But then I kind of switched the perspective and it gave me a different kind of strength. I don't think us as mom and wives and women see is it's like, oh, I didn't need anyone's permission to take that time for myself. I just had to say, I'm taking this time for myself. I need this. And y'all are going to have to figure out how you're going to make it work because I need this hour for me to be better for myself so I can be better for everybody else. Figure it out. But so often we wait for people to give that to us. We wait to be saved, which even when, you're waiting for permission or you're waiting to be saved or you're waiting for a handout, it's like, it doesn't fix anything. Like, you have to make hard choices and find the strength and do the work to change your life for the better. Nobody's going to give that to you.
Right. It's so true.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, Nicole, this has been an amazing conversation. Do you have any last thoughts you want to share with the audience?
I mean, you're amazing. Whoever listens to this, thank you. You're amazing. And I hope this conversation showed, like, none of us are alone in it. We're not, we're all so much stronger than we realize. And let me just share this one thing. So the reason the book is called Diamonds Beneath the Darkness. It's so funny because people have a different take. I mean, I've had people ask me if this was like a dark romance movie. And I'm like, well, there's romance in it. It's dark. But no, it's not that kind of book. But, the reason it was supposed to be a book called Plan Me originally, not Plan A, not Plan B, not Plan C, but Plan Me. And it was going to be called Stop Living the Life Others Expect of You and Start Living the One Life for You. But that's the beauty of writing and storytelling, is it evolved into something more personal, more beautiful. But the Diamonds Beneath the Darkness comes from towards the end of the book. I write that no matter like I said, I am diamond. Like, we all are diamonds, and we're all so much stronger that we know that, a diamond is literally the strongest natural element that exists. And not even lava can damage a diamond. The only way a diamond can actually break is if there's too much built up pressure inside. So just like a diamond, we are all stronger than we know. And no matter what the world wants to throw at us, right? No matter how hard the times get, no matter how messy it gets, how dark it gets, the only thing that can destroy us is if we do it to ourselves. And so I guess that's something I hope I can give your listeners as a takeaway, is like, no matter what is going on in life, no matter anything, like, you are so much stronger than you know. It's not going to break you. You just got to get through the hard seasons, and everybody can, because we are not alone. And hopefully just hearing a conversation like the one we had today and just, talking about it, getting out in nature, feeling the sunshine, breathing the fresh air, like we all woke up today, we're so much luckier than we know. So I guess that would be my little final piece.
Thank you. Thank you. You're so cute. Thank you so much, Nicole, for coming on the show today.
Oh, thank you. It was truly an honor, and I appreciate it very much.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode with Nicole. She's an amazing guest to have on because she's so experienced with production and podcasts and everything regarding communicating and sharing her story. I really enjoyed reading her book, Diamonds Beneath the Darkness. I highly recommend you check it out. and really just appreciate the authenticity that she shares herself and her story, and stuff that we can all relate to as women and moms, and really just recognizing that the more that we can share our truth and our story, then the more we can really make a larger impact on the world. So for more information, check out our website at amazingcrazytv.com.